Hello, and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Cecilia Wallace. Improv is often thought of a game of yes and fast-paced acting, but at the University of St. Thomas, it's more than that. Communication Studies professor Bernie Armada has been teaching the course Building Communication Skills Through Improvisation since the pandemic. The class aims to strengthen students' overall communication techniques through improv and theater games. Today, I'm joined by Professor Armada to discuss this course and its benefits. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Cecilia.
What inspired you to introduce an improv course at St. Thomas, and how do you think it benefits communication students?
I've been inspired to create a course on improv almost as soon as I took my very first improv class myself. Improv is inherently a communication-oriented activity, and my first thought after I got out of my first class, I was exhilarated and really thought, this is about relating to human beings, and this perhaps can teach students more about how to relate to other people better than any class that I've taught thus far in my career. There wasn't really time in my schedule to allow for it, otherwise I would have created it years earlier. But with the change in the core, that opened up possibilities for 2-credit courses, and so I thought this is a great opportunity to try something different, see if students respond to it and want more of it, and there it went. It also came during the pandemic when actually students were so craving in-person contact with other human beings, because most of the classes were online, and so I was telling my improv class earlier today, during the pandemic, the students really craved and appreciated having the live interaction with other people. And there's, I don't think, any better approach for getting people connected than doing it with improv.
Absolutely. How has the course developed since you first began teaching it in 2020?
I've changed some of the assignments, in the beginning, just like with experimenting with improv, you fall on your face at times, you have some successes, so it's really a process of tweaking and getting a sense of which of the games resonate with students, which are the ones that really draw them out of their shell. And I haven't really changed many of the assignments because, frankly, most of the class is really just being present. There aren't a lot of formal assignments other than reading, doing online discussion posts, and then coming to class with an open mind and a willingness to take some risks and be pushed out of your comfort zone. Most of it is really just being present.
How has developing improvisation skills assisted you in both your personal and professional life?
How has it assisted me in my personal and professional life? So in a lot of ways, but one of the most significant ways is deliberately adopting a point of view. So when we create characters in scenes, we have to come at a scene with a specific point of view, and sometimes that might be the point of view of that is fueled by an emotion. So I might go into a scene saying, no matter what happens with my partner, whether they reject me, whether they're mean to me, whether they're nice to me, I'm going to be happy no matter what. It's going to filter through happiness. It's going to filter if they're mean to me, it's going to come through the filter of happiness. And you might know people, maybe you're one of them, Cecilia, who no matter what comes at them, they've got a smile on their face, they are optimistic. And, in the same way, there's the opposite. Some of those people who are constant, who are, abiding curmudgeons who no matter what happens, they see the glass as half empty. So that's a point of view. And so I've learned, I'm not always successful at it, but I've learned strategically at times to apply a point of view of positivity. So for example, if things aren't going very well with a class and they're really quiet, or somebody is scowling at me, which used to really rattle me. Now I will just say, keep smiling, just keep it positive, and, you know, don't let go. Don't let somebody else's external behaviors impact my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So in a very real sense, that's something that I learned from improv that I never learned from any of my communication or rhetoric training. Because I wasn't trained as an improv for my PhD or anything, you know.
How can students from disciplines beyond communication studies also benefit from developing improvisation skills?
Well, I said this, I think, in our first interview. Everyone can benefit from taking this class. Every last person on earth can benefit from taking these two classes. They're two credit classes. First 7 weeks, second 7 weeks if you want to take both sections. But practicing improv is a way of constantly checking in with yourself about things that may hold you back, getting in your head, becoming self-conscious, trying too hard to be funny rather than just listening, deeply listening to what another player in a scene is offering to you. In the same way, those deep listening skills apply to all kinds of contexts that have absolutely nothing to do with improv. The readings that I assign, much of them deal with helping scientists and engineers become better communicators by being trained in improv. So I think I mentioned this before. My dream would be to have specialized courses just for engineering students where all of the engineers are in the same class and we're learning improv skills to help them be better communicators. I've interacted with a lot of engineers, professional engineers, not just students, who have told me engineers need communication training beyond just the jargon of speaking the jargon of their own area of specialty. They need training in how to communicate their amazing knowledge and skills to everyday people, that their results would be so much more. They would be able to move forward with projects so much more efficiently if they were more focused on communicating with lay people in a more relatable way. So that's I would love for scientists, engineers, mathematicians, College of Business, people to just catch on and see the value of this. It's kind of a hard sell because people see theater stuff as like, oh, it's just flaky, touchy-feely, but a lot of good communication involves the connections. It's all about connecting with people. So Coach Johnny Tower had me a couple of weeks ago do improv with his basketball team, like a few days before the season began. Johnny is one of those people who he would admit he is not an artistic, he says he's not creative at all, but that's not exactly true. He is very much a yes and person who is a sponge when it comes to new ideas that he thinks would be valuable. And so he appreciates the value of improv for building team camaraderie, bringing people together, giving them common experiences and a common vocabulary that they can kid each other around with. And so he had me come in and do improv with the guys, and he's going to have me back at some point to do more of that stuff because he sees the value in it for team building.
That's great. What changes or improvements do you often see in students from the beginning to the end of the semester in your improv class?
Some of the changes are absolutely remarkable. I always tell students, especially the ones who are really introverted, and they tell me, well, I'm thinking about taking your class, but I'm really scared. And I tell them, this is a class specifically for people who are a little scared. This is a class for the people who are more introverted. not that it's not for the kids who have done improv or who have a theater background. It is for those people as well. But it's especially for those people who are on the shyer end. And so I start with baby steps in drawing them out. We do some very low risk sorts of games. And then by the end of the first 7 weeks, they're doing full on skits and performing characters that were so far different voices, different movements, props and things like that. And you just see them playing more, letting go of the expectation that they have to be correct all the time, that they have to be serious all the time, that they have to be adults all the time. If I had a secondary title for these courses, I would call it Playtime for Adults, because a lot of times all we need is permission to just play. And we don't get that enough, at least in the American education system.
How does building communication skills through improvisation differ from other courses in the communication studies department?
Well, this is, in some ways it's very similar because we're all getting at the same end game, which is to get students, to train students to listen carefully with their full selves, not just with their ears, but listen with their eyes, their entire sensory system. When you see a person's nonverbal communication, when you see a person's nonverbal communication, you're listening with your eyes and you're reading how their body language is communicating to you, how their facial expressions are, their tone of voice, those sorts of things. So listen deeply, and our entire curriculum is really focused on that. It's focused on developing excellent oral communication skills, critical thinking, and relating to people, understanding the drama of human relationships, which involves beautiful things and sometimes terrible things where we are divided. And so, of course, in our department, we try to cultivate and emphasize the ways in which people can be brought together and the ways in which our students can be agents in their own lives, personal and professional, who can be uniters rather than dividers. And that's our entire curriculum. And improv does that. I, of course, I'm biased, but I think does that really, really very well. Just as an art form itself, it's just perfectly suited for communication training. And I think it probably dovetails. Well, I know it dovetails a lot with some of the things in emerging media as well. They're not unrelated.
Absolutely. How can students expand their improvisational knowledge after completing the course?
Well, number one, there is no short supply of books that I could recommend. Most of them, by the end of level 2, have begged me to start an improv club. And that will be coming in some form in the future. The St. Thomas students who have taken these classes want to do it more. Why? I'll tell you why they want to do it more. It's not just because they want to be hams or anything like that. Because I've asked them, I said, would you want to do a performance for other people? And they're like, we're not interested really in performing. We're interested in just playing together. They want the relationships with other people. They want the camaraderie. And improv is a great way of juggernauting, like cutting through the social conventions of, we have to get to know each other first. If we're playing around, we can get to know each other much quicker than if we were just seeing each other at meetings and in class and being formal and stuff like that. So they really crave that, like, let's get all the get to know you stuff out of the way and let's just play and support each other. And that's what that art form is all about when it's done right.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Follow along at thecrest.news and follow us on social media at The Crest News for more stories from your campus community. With Professor Bernie Armada, I'm Cecilia Wallace. We'll see you next time. Deep Dive.